Hello everyone, I am Niharika John Mehra, your educator at Unacademy. So, we are doing this course changing active into passive voice, and today in this lesson we are going to learn about future perfect tense, how things work out, what is the sentence format, and some examples are there in today's lesson. Coming on to a little bit about me, I'm a mass communication graduate and currently doing my post graduation in MA English Literature. I'm an English trainer at Unacademy and also a freelance personality development trainer. You can follow me right here on this link for all my courses and other lessons. You can also click on the follow button which is below this video and you will be able to access all of my courses and other lessons. So let's start with affirmative sentence. Now, affirmative sentences are positive general statements. In active voice, if I need to make affirmative sentence and it is in future perfect tense, it will start with subject who is doing the work, then followed by will or shall, then have, then verb third form, and then object. For example, Dave will have kicked the ball. They will have eaten apples. So here we see that Dave, these people are doing the action. That is why it is there, their name is there in the starting of the sentence. Followed by will, then have, which is a fixed word for future perfect tense, then verb third form, kicked and eaten, and then the object on which work is done. In passive voice, sentence will start with object, the thing on which work is done or the person on which work is done, then will or shall, then have, and then been. So been is important word over here for passive voice future perfect tense. Then verb third form and then by whom it is done. So the doer's name. For example, the ball will have been kicked by Dave. The ball is the thing, object on which work is done. It was here, we can see. Then will, then have, then been, fixed word, verb third form kicked. And at last now we are mentioning the one who is doing the work. Apples will have been eaten by them. So in apples, again we see it is the thing on which work is done. The work of eating is done on apples. It is clear over here in active. Hence, it comes at first place in the sentence when we make passive voice sentence. Then will, then have, then been, then verb third form eaten, and at last we see by whom? By them. Now let's see negative sentence. In negative sentence, we mean something we say about negation. We are saying no to something or we are denying something. In active voice, it starts with the subject, the one who has done the work, then will or shall, then not, then have, then verb third form, and at last the object on which work is not done. For example, Dave will not have kicked the ball. They will not have eaten apples. So we see here again the one person related who is the doer is mentioned in the starting. Will not have is the format for negative sentence future perfect tense, verb third form, and then the object on which work is not done. In passive voice, sentence will start with the object, the thing about which we are talking, the action is taking place on this thing, then will or shall, then not have, after that been, an again important word, then verb third form, and then by the person who is doing that work. Now one thing to remember is this been will always be placed before the third form of verb. For example, the ball will not have been kicked by Dave. Apples will not have been eaten by them. So what do we find here? We see that the things on which the work was supposed to be done or which was not done is stated in the starting. will not have been, again will not have been remains same, then verb third form, and then at last we find the name of the doer. Next we see interrogative sentence. Now interrogative sentence are of two types, and one type is where answer is just yes or no. In this case, active voice will have will or shall in the starting, then subject, then have, then verb with third form, and then object. For example, will Dave have kicked the ball? Will they have eaten apples? Because these are the question which has just yes or no as answer, it will start with helping verb followed by the person who has done the action, then have, it will remain constant. Here in future perfect tense, we don't have option of has or have. Have remains fixed. Then kicked, eaten, third form of verb, and on what it is done, the object is mentioned at the last. In passive voice, again the sentence will start with will or shall, then followed by the object, which is the thing which on which the work is done. Have remains constant. After this been, then verb third form, and then by whom? By the doer. For example, will ball have been kicked by Dave? Will apples have been eaten by them? So we see that in active and passive both the will, this will word is fixed. It remains same. There is no change. In active, we are first writing the name of doer. In passive, we are writing the name of thing on which work is done. Then have been kicked, have plus been plus verb third form remains same. Have been eaten remains, again the format remains same, and by whom the work is done is mentioned at the last. Next type of interrogative sentence is the one in which we have detailed answer. Such kind of sentences starts with WH words, which are called question words as well. They are when, where, why, what, and how. So in active, it starts with WH word followed by will or shall, then subject, then have, then verb third form, and then object. For example, why will Dave have kicked the ball? When will they have eaten apples? So why here is talking about the reason is it is the question word asking for the reason, when asking for the time. Will remain same no matter in which number the subject is. Then the subject have kicked, have plus verb third form, which is past participle form. Then have eaten, again past participle and combination of have, and at last on which work is done. In passive voice, the WH word remains same as of the active voice and followed by will or shall plus object on which the work is done. Then have, then been, then verb third form, and at last by whom it was done. For example, why will ball have been kicked by Dave? So this why remains same, will remain same. The ball which was object here comes at this position. Have remains same. Been is added in passive voice. Kicked remains same. And Dave, who is subject over there in active, comes at last over here. In this manner, it is so easy to change a sentence from active to passive. Again, we have another example. When will apples have been eaten by them? So this when remains same, will remain same. Object over here comes at this position because it's passive voice. Have remains same. Been is added because of passive voice. Verb third form remains same, and they becomes them when it comes in the last. So it becomes objective in passive voice. Next we see and the last type of sentence with no doer. So these are the sentences when we ask a question to know who has done the work. So in active voice we see the sentence starts with who followed by will or shall, and then have, then verb third form, and then object. There is no subject in active voice in this kind of sentence. For example, who will have kicked the ball? And then we will get the answer of the name of subject. Who will have eaten 5 apples? In passive voice, a sentence will start with by whom, followed by will or shall, then object on which the work is done, then have been, and then verb third form. For example, by whom will the ball have been kicked? By whom will apples have been eaten? So it starts with by whom, followed by will, then the object on which the work is done, action is done, then have been, verb third form. In this manner, we see that our sentence is completed in passive voice from active voice. So that was it for today's lesson. And just to inform all of you, we don't have passive voice in perfect continuous tense. So whether it is present perfect continuous tense, past perfect continuous tense, or future perfect continuous tense, we don't have passive voice in these 3 tenses plus future continuous tense, as I have already mentioned it in the last video. Thank you so much. Stay tuned for more lessons which are going to come very soon, and please don't forget to share, rate, review and recommend.